Hello, 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 everybody. It's your girl Ashley, the amateur expert, coming to you live today. I am excited for our guest, Kebra Smith-Bolden. She is a spearhead in the cannabis field in Connecticut, and I am looking forward to you guys learning about her. She's in the room, so I'll get her added so we can get started. Hello.
Wait, I feel like I'm too close. Wait, there we go.
Hey, Kebra, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for doing this today.
Of course.
So, if you could please introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do for work currently. All of the things.
Okay. So my name is Kebra Smith-Bolden. I am a New Haven girl, New Haven, Connecticut, born and raised. I am a registered nurse. I primarily worked doing home care in our communities in New Haven, specifically the Ville and the Hill, and really had been doing nursing for almost a decade and a half, and never really seeing improvements and wanted more. And so one of the things that led me to was cannabis nursing and finding out more about cannabis. My grandmother had become ill. We medicated her with cannabis and saw a complete turnaround in her. So some of the other things I do, I own cannabis certifying clinics and centers here in Connecticut. We have 6 locations. I also still work as a nurse. I have a full-time job. And I do a lot of advocacy for people of color to become owners and have equity opportunities in the cannabis industry. I'm working with an organization for which I'm president, Connecticut United for Reform and Equity, and our job has been to draft the equity language that would be presented in the Connecticut legislature, and we were successful in getting that done. What was actually presented in the legislature wasn't as strong of language as we would have liked, and it didn't even get voted on. So it kind of worked out because, there were a lot of holes in that legislation that they actually presented. So we'll be back at it again this year. But those are some of the hats that I wear. I do
Did you
have some.
teach?
Oh, yeah. I also teach classes on medical cannabis. I teach classes to professionals or students, at Gateway who are seeking professional licenses, specifically working with individuals within the city. So like the care coordinators that they have a course at Gateway and some other health related programs. So I teach about cannabis as an option for referral for these services. I teach classes through Canna Health, and I speak, on national platforms and at national conferences about a variety of things. Sometimes I'm talking about the medical aspects of cannabis, and sometimes I'm talking about equity and opportunity and the effect the war on drugs has on communities of color. So it just depends, but I've been doing a lot of things on a national level and just trying to engage people of color, specifically in the state of Connecticut, in looking at this industry as an opportunity similar to opportunities we've missed in the past, like alcohol prohibition. When that was ended, we were the bootleggers and we lost. We never got into that industry. We were the numbers runners. Harlem, it was the epicenter of that. And when lottery came along, we got no equity, we got no opportunity. And so, they use cannabis to demonize and criminalize our communities and people within our communities when they knew from the beginning that it wasn't a harmful substance, that it actually was medicine and could be used in a variety of ways for a variety of ailments.
Right.
And so instead they chose to criminalize it because Black and brown people they thought were the primary consumers. But if we look at statistics nationally, both white people and Black people consume about equally, yet Black people are arrested 3 to 4 times in Connecticut more than white people, and then nationally up to 10 times more than white people. So that just doesn't equate. And so it's important that we highlight those inconsistencies in the law, so that we can use that as evidence why we should have equity and opportunity in this particular industry. And really trying to get, people who are anti-cannabis and anti-cannabis legalization to not focus on, because a lot of their concerns are relative to people getting high, like who's going to drive high, if the kids are going to get high, all these things. But it's more to this industry than getting high. There's opportunities for technology and an entire industry needs to be created. And so that open up doors for jobs and opportunities and having people think outside of the box. If we give our communities the opportunity to study botany, we take cannabis and have, you imagine little Black and brown kids, becoming botanists and thinking about science in a different way, and studying all of the different strains and being responsible for creating something that, reduces cancer size.
That would be beautiful.
All these things that could happen, so there's more. And then, like I said, just being able to infuse some wealth into our communities, because we were robbed of that. So that's
so important.
Part of what I do.
So what did you want to do when you were little?
Oh, I always wanted to be a nurse or a doctor.
Okay.
I think I more wanted to be a doctor because I had like a doctor's bag, and I wanted to. But as time evolved, I realized that I don't really like school like that. So I did not want to do all those years of schooling. I'm not down for the whole like hazing that you got to go through medical school, whatever. So I decided against that. And plus, time wasn't on my side. I had already started a family. Well, had my daughter pretty young. And so, I had to do something that would get me a steady income. And that was a part of my passion. So I always want to be in the healthcare field.
And what did you think success looked like when you were chasing that dream at that time?
It's funny. Like, I always felt like I should have been born rich.
Okay.
And you know what's so funny is that, like, modern time, we have Donald Trump is our president right now. And I used to say all the time, before I knew what a vile individual he was, I used to say growing up, like, I should have been a Trump. I should have been born a Trump. Isn't it so crazy? But, like, I always felt like that. Like, there was more for me out here.
Okay.
And so I always kind of knew what success looked like. Success meant, having a nice house, a nice car, having money in the bank, like, I'm into a lot of like extravagant things. So, I had already planned in my mind.
But that's what you were getting. And being a nurse or a doctor was going to fast track you to being that at that time.
I figured that. Now I know that having a job and working for anyone really doesn't equate that. You have to be an entrepreneur. You have to have multiple streams of income. You have to, be an innovator and think outside of the box, and in order to really be a change agent and do something to change your life and the lives of generations to come. So
now what is your idea of success?
When I feel the most successful lately, when I'm able to have peaceful moments.
And what's a peaceful moment? What's that mean for you?
I have no worries. I'm financially well. My children are well. Things are well. I'm in my little private, quiet spaces or whatever that is, and that is what happens when you do start building something, and you build it so well that it can run on its own, and you're making money while you're asleep, and those kind of things. That's success to me. And
Okay.
beautiful relationships.
Okay.
Like, I think success is not just financial or things that you, material things you can obtain. Success is also successfully raising children. Like, I have successfully raised 4 children, and three of them were triplets, and I kept them all alive. That's success. No
I
matter
mean, I'm proud of you.
I,
I don't know that I could have done it, so I am proud of you. That's great. But no, that does speak to a good point. And so how did you navigate? So you did become a nurse, so it wasn't like you had a, major career change, but you have developed and expanded upon the traditional nursing duties. You've become an entrepreneur. You're starting to dabble into fields that are sort of foreign, so to speak. So how did you make that decision to do that? And what was the motivating factor behind that?
I just wanted to change my life, and I had, like I said, I always felt like there was more for me. Now, I've always been a worker, like a hard worker. So, even as a nurse, I probably was one of the highest paid nurses you could find, with a associate's level nursing degree. You know what I'm saying? I've always been able to get my money. However, I realized, I hate to say that. Well, let's see how I can say this without
Say it. Don't worry.
no, I have to worry. It's something I would say about one of my children. But
Oh.
I realized that one of my children would probably be relying on me for the rest of their lives in one way, shape, or form. Maybe all of them, but and I was just like, what? And then my grandson was born, and I'm just like, Lord Jesus, like, what will I have to leave? What, like, if God forbid his parents couldn't take care of him and I'm no longer on this earth, like, what am I going to have? What can I leave? And I realized I could not export or transfer my nursing license, which has made me plenty of money, to my children or my grandchildren. I can't do that. But what I could do is build a business or build a company or build a brand or whatever that was going to be, that would provide for them for generations to come. And so, honestly, I knew nursing was not going to do that. Working for other people wasn't going to do that. And so I had to find something different. And when I first got into this industry, I just knew I was going to own a dispensary or own a grow facility or something like that, and realized that was out of reach for me. Being a Black girl from New Haven, like, I was not born a Trump. So, I
You didn't have those resources. Yes.
millions of dollars into whatever projects I wanted to do. So I had to find ways to innovate and do things different. And so, through the network that I had begun to form with Women Grow, I was able to, like, start networking with people, and everybody kept saying, "You're a nurse. Why don't you do something in healthcare, in cannabis?" And I'm like, you know what, you're right. And that's how Canna Health came to be. I really wanted to make a difference. I really wanted to give people of color access. I mostly, to be honest, wanted to keep Black men safe. Honestly, I know so many Black men that the first charge that they had was something weed related or something cannabis related. And so, and then I also know that the majority of the violations that people get on probation and parole are for smoking a joint, and the truth of the matter is that these people are unknowingly medicating themselves, because it's hard being a Black person, a person of color in America, period. Knowing what I know from where I come from, in the era in which I was raised, all my friends and people I knew were either getting killed or going to prison, or having just these tragic things happen. But then we're all supposed to, like, I remember the first time I must have been a freshman. The first time someone I knew, and I had known him since preschool, Sebastian, he had gotten killed in the city of New Haven. I was in ninth grade. He was my
Oh,
age.
wow.
Somebody I had known. And the first, and so we got to school. They tell us this. They had counselors on staff.
Right.
You know, they canceled classes for the rest of the day. You know, they tried to do all the, by the time I graduated from high school, we had probably lost 20 plus, if not more, people
Wow.
within the school. And they stopped giving us counselors. Class had to continue, you know, and we and people aren't really realizing the trauma of things
I
like
was going
that.
to say
Like
it's very traumatic.
that's not
No.
normal. And so, you know, realizing and growing up in this era, realizing that people are walking around with these traumas, post-traumatic stress disorder, urban trauma, and so this is why they're medicating. So, you know, when I have people like, well, what about the people who just walk around stoned and listless and they don't do anything? I'm like, okay, they're not medicating properly. They're over medicating themselves.
Right.
But let's look
Right.
at why they are medicating themselves. And you start looking at people's histories and find out, like, there was this one young brother that I did a talk about from New Haven. He was abused by this one, raped by that one, saw his mother getting abused, like saw his friend killed right in front of him, and then he started committing crimes, like all these things. But it just is like nothing happened to intervene on his behalf. Like,
Right.
and we have to address these things. We have to acknowledge these things, and we also have to put the blame where it belongs. Yes, we're individuals and we have choice and free will to an extent. In America, yes, Black people don't have that many choices unless they go and carve something out. And a lot of times they make it almost impossible. You can't carve out your own way with a foot on your neck. You just can't do it. You know, and for many of our people, that has been what it was, especially in the 80s and 90s and the crack era and all that stuff. And when we look now at history, we see that this was all done on purpose. Like, this was all Nixon specifically started that talk of the war on drugs and criminalizing cannabis and black, and he specifically said he was after blacks and hippies. You know what I'm saying? So and so when we start looking at that and not acknowledging the circumstances that we've been placed in,
right,
I want to salute half the Black people who grew up over the last 40 years, because, you know, this has really been a survival of the fittest kind of situation. So, you know,
right, they made it, even though they coped in ways that weren't necessarily healthy, or, you know, they abused certain things, but they had to do what they had to do to cope. So.
Mm-hmm. And abuse of cannabis does nothing to you. It's not going to kill you.
Right.
No, it's not like, you know, some people are coping with opioids and you're going to die, like, if you take any of those, or if
and
you
alcohol medicate. As well.
And alcohol is going to, and it makes you violent and all these things that doesn't happen with cannabis, you know. So it's been demonized, vilified. Our people have subsequently been demonized and vilified and criminalized, and so it's important that we address these things. And so through Canna Health, I was able to do that. I was able to hire APRNs and physicians, to certify people to obtain medical cannabis cards, which gives them access to safe, plant-based, tested medicine of cannabis.
Yeah, how does someone do that?
So, and save them from being violated for probation and parole. And the process is pretty simple. In the state of Connecticut, so in 2012, the state of Connecticut enacted their palliative use of marijuana act, and that allowed people to, well, first of all, it afforded grow facilities. So there are 4 grow facilities in the state of Connecticut that grow cannabis, and there are now 18 licensed dispensaries in the state of Connecticut.
Oh, wow.
And so,
no idea.
Mm-hmm. And so in order for people to now buy this cannabis that they have grown and now sell, you have to have a medical marijuana certification or a card. If I have one handy, I'll show it to you. But so if you come to Canna Health, there are 31, 32 diagnoses. I know they just added something. And most of them are medical, and they range from cancer to MS to sickle cell to Parkinson's disease. There's rheumatoid arthritis.
So when they come to you, they have to have like a doctor's notice, or does a diagnosis happen at your site?
So that's what I was going to say. If they have one of the medical ones, they bring something from their physician or specialist that says that they have the medical diagnosis, and then we certify that they truly do qualify because they have one of the diagnoses, and bam, they go. If they don't have one of the medical diagnoses and they do believe and have symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, we do an assessment there in the office. It's a nationally recognized screening tool used by the Veterans Hospital, and
okay.
so what we do is we assess people for the VA. I couldn't think of that. We assess people for post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's so crazy because I have so many people who come in there like, okay, what do I have to say to get a card? And I'm like, and they're whispering, and I'm like, you don't have to say anything but the truth.
Right.
And let me show you. And so as I began showing them the screening tool, the first section is about all the things you went through, and you like kind of check off whether you witnessed it happened to you as part of your job, whatever. And so the list of things range from like a car accident to natural disaster to domestic violence, seeing someone murdered, witnessing a suicide.
Oh, wow.
And so you don't know how many people that I actually have who are going through and checking off all of these boxes.
Oh, wow.
And then they get to the next session and they speak of a specific incident that has caused them, to have these symptoms or and they have to write a little short narrative about it. And then the last section is symptoms. So we talk about, inability to sleep, anger, feeling withdrawn, depression, anxiety, all these things. And these are symptoms that they check off. And at the end, people are realizing, oh my God, I do have post-traumatic stress disorder. And that explains why I can't keep a job, and why I have horrible relationships, and why, I'm so angry, or whatever. It's because of and then we refer people for therapy, and for people to then go on to try to heal from those things. Because cannabis, now one thing I will say, cannabis will not heal PTSD. Cannabis will medicate you. It will manage your symptoms. It will help deal with the depression. It'll help you with the nightmares so you can sleep at night, all those things. But you need to follow up with therapy, with some sort of guidance as to how to begin to heal from that. So
do people need to make an appointment, or can they walk in, or what's the process?
Yep, they can.
Okay.
Make an appointment on our website, and it's www.visitcanahealth.com. They can call the office. Our main office is New Haven, 203-691-7081, and they can go to any of our sites. And we have 6 locations here in Connecticut. We're in Danbury, Stamford, Middletown, Milford, Hartford, and New Haven. So you have a choice. And we also accept walk-ins when we're open on Saturday. We ask that you get there at least a half an hour before we're closing, because otherwise we'll be there all day.
No, that's fair.
And we don't turn anybody away. We assess everyone.
Oh, nice.
If you don't, it's a rarity because most people, unfortunately, are trauma victims, and they really do qualify for PTSD. So it's a rarity that we have to turn anyone away. But if we're unable to certify you, we don't charge you. We offer discounts we have a standard fee of $200, but we offer discounts for veterans, for people on public or government assistance. We only charge $125.
That's awesome.
So try to keep it affordable, and I work with people all the time. Like, this is really about getting access to safe medicine, being safe from prosecution. If you get pulled over and you have cannabis and you have your card, they have to let you go, those, and you won't get violated. So those are the things that are really important. And it's all, little old ladies don't need to be on these oxycontins and opioids.
Right, right, right.
This is natural, safe. We can get my little mama a little capsule or some candy, and she'll be just as happy. So, there's options of different ways you can consume. You can get different strains to treat different ailments. So it could be really a great experience.
I love it. So I have 2 more questions.
Okay.
Quickly, can you tell me what tips or motivators you used along your journey? So things that maybe when you were starting up the company and it wasn't going how you thought, or whatever the case may be, a quick tip or motivator that you can share.
I just believe that God doesn't bring you to something that he's not going to see you all the way through. Sorry, something just flew on me.
It's okay. No problem.
And so, I just have faith that even in the bad times, there were times that were bad too, because I basically couldn't work while I was building my business because I was so vocal about cannabis. And so it were some bad times. And I just had to just believe that there was no way he brought me this far to have me out here looking stupid. That's not the God I serve. And so that just kept me pushing. And so that you have to have something like that to keep you pushing, because any entrepreneur is going to tell you there's going to be days when you just want to quit, throw in the towel.
Yep. Love it. And thank you for sharing that. The last question is, I call myself the amateur expert and I claim to know a little bit about a lot. So although you have taught me a lot of things already in this interview, if you could share another random tidbit or fact that I can say, Kebra taught me that.
Okay. So we have in our bodies an endocannabinoid system, not unlike our lymph system.
I know the lymph. Endocannabinoid. Cannabinoid, okay.
System. And that is a system when we consume cannabis, it interacts with this system, creates this lock and key mechanism, and then your body is striving for homeostasis. So it puts your body into homeostasis when you consume cannabis. We have innate, endogenous, so inner cannabinoids, endogenous cannabinoids that God gave us. So there are things that are automatically released, like during when a mother is breastfeeding, those cannabinoids are transferred to her children through her breast milk. So it gives that child that warm, nurturing feeling. So.
Thank you for sharing that. There was a question, but we have to wrap this up. So I have another podcast that I'm starting. And so I'd love to have you back and ask that question specifically. I'm actually going to take a screenshot of it so that I don't lose it. And yeah, Kebra, you've been a wealth of knowledge. And I appreciate you doing this and also sharing your gift with the community. And I know you're changing a lot of lives. I have 2 friends that I know specifically that I will be referring to you. They're like, wait, isn't she going to be on your show soon? Ask her how. So I will be referring them to you or to, the number that you said. This will be on YouTube, and I will add the phone number and website and all of your handles. So again, thank you so much for doing this. And it's always a pleasure.
Well, yeah, see ya.
All right, have a good day.
You too.